Hi everyone, how are you? It's a beautiful day and I'm here with the Benjos. Can you guys introduce yourself?
Joseph GBENJO here.
Hello, GBENJO.
Uh-oh, everybody has a way of saying the name. We have Joseph Benjo, we have Kayo Benjo. She really Africanized it. And I'm Bumi Adeniro on behalf of the Praying Mothers Ministry and the Adasa Circle. We have these beautiful couples, and there has to be something that made me think about inviting them. And I'm just going to give you why. They don't even know why. I just told them, and they, out of honoring me, they just agreed. But I've known Joseph first for a long time. He plays basketball at the Redeem Camp with Coach Addy and all of that little stuff. And he's always been a good boy. So one day I just asked, where are his parents? And they're like, oh, his parents, they worship in another church. And I'm like, oh, really? And he's so dedicated in his own church. I was very proud of him. And then I met Kyle in the middle of it. And I mean, she's an example of a virtuous woman, a submissive wife, even though it's within 1 year. But at least that 1 year, she's been submissive as far as I know. And then they happen to be my in-laws. So I just want to welcome them. I want them to share with our young people what it takes for you to honor your mother and your father, because they don't worship in the same church. Most of the young people, they behave nicely because mommy and daddy are there. And I mean, the millennials, when mommy and daddy correct them and tell them something, they count it as control. They count it as, you may see us fidget is because I did the arrangement of the computer, and they're computer people, so I probably didn't do a good job, but pardon me anyway. This is a live program. We are real people. We're human beings. We're gonna do stuff that is not programmed. You know what I mean? We don't want to be politically correct. So bear with us. Back to my gist. I love the way they handle their spirituality, despite the fact that their parents are not always in church. People like me grew up, let me try to cover my sin a little bit. People like me grew up in a home that every time after church, they ask you, what did they preach? Who preached? Who sang the opening song? Who coordinated the first prayer? Just to make sure I was in church, because I always sneak sometimes, I was a young girl and I wanted to explore. But despite that, I see that in them that I didn't say they were perfect, so everybody, no judging, but they still followed Christ and they still honor their parents. So I'd like them to tell us one of my questions here, because I have 1 million questions for them. One of my questions here is, what do you understand by honoring your father and your mother? What does it mean to you? Ladies first.
Okay. Well, to honor your father and mother, and there's a certain level of change that's happened in my life, because of one, I'm closer to Christ, and two, I'm married. Um, but in the general broad sense, outside of marriage, outside of all of that, honoring your parents simply means listening to them, obeying them in the way of the Lord. Now, there's a certain difference of, okay, if your parents are not in Christ and you're in Christ, and maybe they want you to do a certain thing, like maybe, oh, I know something that's common is maybe, oh, just go tell a lie, or go buy me this that's maybe not legal, not self. If your faith contradicts that, as in if Christ contradicts that, then by all means you're open and you should be able and confident to tell them. This does not mean disrespect to you. This doesn't mean that you insult them and you belittle them, but you talk to them like, Mom, Dad, this is who I am. I am a child of Christ. You are my earthly parents. You are here to guide me. You're here to lead me right. But my Father in heaven is who I obey and follow primarily and utmostly. At the end of the day, it's God. So honoring your parents to me means obeying them in the way of the Lord.
Thank you. Mr. Joseph.
Yes. To honor your parents. Well, I think it's just I think one of the main things is when they're not there. You know, when you honor someone, you know, maybe you lift them up a little bit. You make them look good. You give them an award, an achievement. You know, you some kind of accolade. So honoring the parents is, I think the key is maybe when they're not there, you know, don't talk down on them or hide their issues. Don't expose them. That's one way to honor them. Yeah, that's one way.
That's a very powerful one. Thank you. And I wanted to comment back on what Mr. Joseph said. Most of our millennials, is that what you guys call yourself? The 86.
I'm old. I'm a little bit older.
I'm sorry, I'm wondering, what is the definition for?
Oh, well, Mr. Victor Adenino told me yesterday, anybody born after 86.
Yeah, a millennial. Okay. He was born 89.
Okay, I know, with Victor. Anybody born after 86 is considered.
My age on,
I know. We're not. He was born when he was born, right?
Right.
You know, so anybody born after 86 is considered a millennial. And the point is, the problem that I have with the millennials overall, including my children, is that you're telling us that not to talk bad about your parents, not to belittle your parents, not to disrespect your parents. But what if your parents don't hear God?
What if your parents don't hear God?
You know, because the millennial have an issue with, I'm a Christian too. I hear God when God speaks. You don't have to tell me what to do when God is speaking to me. So let's assume I am not a Christian, and I'm your mother. Do you still have to listen to me, even though I'm not telling you to do something that is ungodly?
Yeah. You obey your mom. You respect your mom.
So you obey your mom regardless of whether she's very spiritual or not spiritual. So what Miss Kayo, Mrs. Benjo is saying is that even though I'm not a Christian, if I teach my child to do something and it's not against the Lord's will, then my child is supposed to do it. But I have another question. That is the first commandment with a blessing attached to it in the Bible. Because in Deuteronomy and in Exodus and in Ephesians, this is question and answer. So we're not going to open the Bible too much, but we're going to refer to the Bible. It says, honor thy father and thy mother so that your days may be long. Why did you think God put a command, a blessing or a condition with that commandment? Why? I know you're not God, but maybe you can reason.
Well, I think, you know, sometimes I remember my mom told me, if you get straight A's, I'll give you new shoes. So it kind of motivates you to get straight A's. I never did, by the way, but if you get straight A's, you get new shoes. It's like a motivation, you know, to give you a commandment. If you let me know what the benefit is or what I may reap, then it's like, oh, okay. It's more encouraging. It's more encouraging to follow the commandment. So I think that's one reason.
Okay. Okay, so it's telling us that the Bible says that we should honor our parents, our father and mother, so that our days will be long. The attachment of the blessing that the Lord attached to honoring your father and your mother should motivate us to honor our father and our mother. I think that is one of the reasons.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, let me pitch in as an old schooler. I'm thinking one of the reasons why God said we should honor our father and our mother is because he knows that our generation will have a rebellious mind. And maybe they did when they wrote the Bible. I wasn't there. But I think we're more rebellious, more resentful, more disrespectful in this generation than the previous one. So I think that Bible verse is more pronounced now to us as millennials. We need to follow it. We need to obey it. We need to do the things that the Bible says we should do so that our days will be long. Second question. Oh, viewers, please send in your questions. I don't have to be the one asking all the questions. These beautiful couples, they have vast knowledge about life. They've been married. I know they've not been here too long, but the little time that they've spent here, they know a little bit. So please post your questions, ladies, gentlemen, daddies, mommies. Please post your questions. Okay, my next question. What are the hindrances to honoring your father and your mother? What do you think hinders younger generation? I mean, your generation, or maybe the younger ones to you, the teenagers now. What do you think are the hindrances to honoring their parents?
Well, just generally outside of
Generally, don't do Christian now. Let's do life.
I think one of the things is that many kids, well, speaking from like African
perspective,
yeah, many kids are frustrated by their parents. They are tired of their parents telling them what to do constantly and saying, "Oh, do this like this, do that like this." Or can't you listen? Just the method of communication to them, specifically because they were raised in a non-Nigerian environment, so they're used to a softer method of communication. What their parents is telling them is not bad. Like, oh, finish your education. Oh, do this. At the core of what the parents are saying, oh, you got a B? Doesn't your mates that have 100 marks, do they have two heads? What's going on? The way it sounds to them is like, oh, negative, it's bad, they don't like it. But at the core of it, which is what I think we should try to work on, like, what is the core of what my parents are trying to tell me to do? They want me to be best. They want me to be excellent. They want me to excel. They want the best for me academically, career-wise. They want the best for me. But the way they're saying it, to them, they don't like that kind of communication. And I think that's one of the hindrances.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's one of the hindrances that is affecting majority of children today. The way the parents are communicating, they don't like it. And because of that, they just rebel. Or tell me to do this? Nope, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. I'm done.
Okay, Mr. Joe.
You know, what makes it difficult? One thing that makes it difficult to honor the parents is, we're supposed to give honor to whom honor is due. Now, if somebody's not doing anything honorable, it's kind of hard to honor them.
You're right.
If there's no honorable, it's like, what do we? If there's no honorable thing, what are we honoring? You know. So many times, many parents may not be doing honorable things, so it's hard to honor. Some if you ask some children, oh, what do you like about your mom and dad? And there's a long pause. That's probably a sign that there's some issue, you know. If you love someone and they're a great person, and someone says, "Oh, what's good about this person?" you should be able to
spit it out,
immediately. So one thing that may make it difficult to honor our parents is that if they're not doing
go ahead.
If they're not doing anything honorable, it's kind of hard.
But I want to interject and say, because communication. I really believe that communication thing is like one of the main things. Because even if like, okay, maybe they like their parents. Maybe their parents are kind of cool, chill. Maybe the parents are, they do everything right. except for the communication aspect. It's kind of like, oh, what look about your mom? You're so blinded by, she yells at me like this, or she does this to me. So even if their conduct is like, oh, they're just above board and they're pious, they're all nice to everyone, but just because of, they just feel disrespected by their parents. Everything else is under the water.
Thank you. And I'm going to talk about communication because that just happened to me. What's today? Saturday. That happened to me, I think, Thursday. One of my children was traveling to Bahamas. And now you know who the she is. She had asked me, Mommy, would you take me to the airport? My flight is at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I said, well, I'm supposed to work, just to talk about communication. I'm supposed to work, but I'll see if I can go to work late, blah, blah, blah. So the night before, I said, well, I already canceled work just to take you. I mean, that's a big sacrifice as a mother, because you could have taken Uber, but because she packed this big bag and she's so afraid that when she gets to the airport, she can't take all of it. So she's going to have to throw it away. Whatever shoes and purses, whatever is in there. So she wanted me to take her, and Uber is not going to bring it back home. So I said, I'll take you. Then in the morning, she came like 5 a.m. and she said, just drop me at so-so-so's house. And I'm like, if that was all I needed to do, I should have gone to work today. I was kind of not happy with it, but I didn't say a word. Then we got in the car, we were about to leave to the friend's house. They're going together. And I said, I could have taken you to the airport. And she said, Mommy, you African parents, you say everything except for what you want to say. And you're right. Maybe if I had said, I will take you to the airport, she would have known that is what I meant. But in her opinion, she thought I would still go to work. So she wanted me to drop her on my way to work. So now that you talked about God, to me, I told her I would take her. And that's what it is to me. But the way we come across, you're right. Because we're not raised in this environment. And people like me, English is my fourth language. You know, I speak Egba, I speak Owu, I speak Yoruba, then I speak English. So my English is it's a dialect, it's not a language. But my English may be far-fetched from you guys' English. So mothers on the line, maybe try to ask your children, do you really understand what I'm trying to communicate to you? And the yelling part that you mentioned, I think we're not yelling. It's just the way we talk. I'm defending mothers now. We're not really yelling. But Africans communicate as if they're fighting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
As if they're fighting. I mean, we're talking now and it sounds like I'm the one fighting and all of you are not fighting with me. But I think that's the way most Africans, for Africans, communicate. But in an American culture too, the children are rebellious. And the parents don't scream like we do as African parents. Where did we go wrong as parents? Like you said, communication. Well, Mr. Joe already said something very powerful. I don't want to go there because the condition in the Bible did not say honor your dad and your mother if they are honorable. He didn't say that. He just says honor. So
I'm just saying it'll be hard. It'll be harder. The parents make it harder if they're not doing something honor. It's like, man, so now I have to honor someone who rarely does honorable things. Like, man, that's tough. You know, that's tough.
I mean, I will say that many children, I think many things that we forget because I'm still a child, you know.
Of course. Yeah, my baby.
I think I'm a child of God. But
no, yeah, your mommy and daddy's child too.
But one of the things that we as children forget is our parents feel, okay, our parents, they've done a lot. They've sacrificed a lot. And sometimes, like, even in conversations with certain, like, children my age or younger, it's like, oh, well, I didn't tell him to do that. Oh, I didn't ask him to do that, and blah, blah. And it's like, no, you have to still understand that, like, when they did this, they did it with, when they sacrificed maybe their degree going to school at this time because they're pregnant with you, or maybe having to do 2 jobs, maybe 3 jobs. Who knows what they had to do to, like, make sure you have food, you have clothes, you have a roof over your head, all these things. They sacrifice a lot. And as children, we're not aware of everything you've done and everything you're doing for the benefit of us. And sometimes we don't care, but because the parents, they just have this constantly on their head, on their shoulders, they're just going through so much. So a child says something that is upsetting, it's like, like, don't you know what I've done, what I'm doing to help you out? And some kids, generally, they don't know and they don't care. I remember one time my mom spoke to me about the things that she's been through and things that my dad has been through as well. And sometimes when I think about it now, I just cry because it's like, man, that's so real. Like, I would never want anyone to go through that. And that's the story of many Nigerian to America parents, like many parents who brought their children from Nigeria to America.
From Africa?
Yeah, true. From Africa, just in general. Or just any immigrant parent.
Immigrant, yes.
But that story is true, like, across all boards. And sometimes we just have to sit back and, as children, and see, oh wow, like this and this and this and this is what my parents have done for me, or done with me in mind, at least. And the parent has to understand that, look, my kids don't know all this stuff. So sometimes it might be ungrateful, it might sound ungrateful, but really that communication, like, it's like sharing your life with us. Because some parents, they don't share. They don't talk about, like, their struggles, their shortcomings. And I'm not saying that children are shrinks or like counselors to help you with your situation. But letting your children know, like, oh, this is how I was when I was growing up. And a true story, not that, oh, when I was graduating, when I was in high school, I had top marks. I was A+. It's impossible for every one of you guys to have top marks.
So who came second?
Somebody had to. But like,
Satan came second. That's so funny.
But yeah, just the child understanding the parent, and the parent allowing the child to understand them. I think that also helps. And all about communication.
Thank you. And I'm a firm believer of letting your children know your struggles. If you interview any of my children, they know my mistakes. They know where I went wrong. They know what I did when I was young. They know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think as parents, that would help our children know that my parents are actually not perfect. They are work in progress as well. But one thing as a mother that I can relate to when it talks about your children doing what you want them to do, because we digress to that, and I want to talk about God's, your children. Let's assume my daughter was supposed, or maybe my son was gonna marry somebody else apart from your sister. And as a mother, I know what God has told me about your sister, or something, just a scenario like that. I would encourage every mother, let me say that it was on my mind, every mother to intercede on behalf of their children. Every good mother should pray diligently. If you pray 30 minutes, let 25 be for your children. And I'm not saying that you don't pray for yourself and your husband, because your children are your future and they're your legacy. And you don't want to have heartache when you are 80 years old. So, and as a mother, I have prayed for my son Victor that married your sister. What as a mother, in honoring me, let's assume you are Victor, in honoring me, would it be okay if I had told you as Victor that, oh, Victoria is your wife, and then you said, now you are Victor, you are not Joseph, and then you said, no, Kayo is my wife? Would that mean that you're honoring me or you're dishonoring me? You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say it depends on what the Lord, or what I believe the Lord has told me.
Okay.
You know, honoring is not necessarily obeying.
Okay.
If it comes to, You know, marriage, man, that's up to you. It's between you and the Lord. Now, yes, your family can help you intercede, like Mommy said. Intercede, yeah, but intercede, not decide. You know, it will come down to the person who's gonna say the I do. It's not we do, it's I do. So I should be making the last choice. Yes, I will take. I mean, if there's a good relationship with me and my mom, I will take heed to what she said. I'll pray about it. Am I wrong, Lord? This is not the right person. But if it comes down to me and I believe, okay, this is my wife.
Yeah, that's your wife. We know.
If I believe,
but you're Victor right now. No, that's not.
But
okay,
yeah,
that's your wife. That's your wife.
It comes down to my conviction,
okay.
Me being convicted and me being convinced.
Okay, yeah. Let me back up a little bit, and that's the right answer. It comes down to you being convinced and what the Lord is saying. Really not what your heart is saying in this context, because marriage is tough. And your heart, right now, you are back to Joseph. Your heart may be attracted to Kayo. Oh no, your heart may be attracted to me as your wife. But the Lord is saying Kayo is your wife. So if you're not grown enough to understand what the Lord is saying, or if you don't have a good relationship with the Lord, then if your parents that has good relationship with the Lord gives you counsel, should you take it? You know fully well that your relationship with the Lord is iffy. Should you take it? If you know damn well, let me speak American English, that your relationship with God is rocky.
I do think I should take heed to their advice. But the only issue, I think the best thing to do would be, okay, now I have to get serious with the Lord, like my parents are. I have to become serious, and then because it has to be my decision. Yes. Because if anything goes wrong in the marriage, I'll point to them. And if they have gone to glory or slept already by the time passed away, then I'm really in a dark place, you know, and that's not a good place to be. You know, if the foundation is built by you, as in the decision is made by you, then you have no one to blame except for you. If now I take the decision of my parents, I can point to them, you know, even if it's not their fault, I can still point to them because I'll just say, hey, you're the one that told me, you know.
So you're saying the best solution is for you to develop a good relationship with the Lord so you can know the Lord's will for your life.
Yeah, personal conviction or being personally convinced. That is the...
Yeah, but can we be personally convinced wrongly?
Convinced? Yeah.
Wrongly. I'll give you a story. When I was about to get married, I had a guy that I wanted to marry. And this is on the air. My children know the story. And I could bet that was my husband. I mean, because I like the guy. He's a doctor, and I'm a nurse, so I wanted to marry a doctor. He's not, so we can open up a clinic in Nigeria, and you know, that was our time. Yeah, thank you for that. But you know, that was my desire in my heart of heart. Then the guy wasn't that tall, so I was imagining that, okay, he's not too tall like this one, so we can easily, you know, cuddle and do all that. That was my mind then. But I remember my grandmother came and told me after she prayed for me between the two guys, which is now my 30 years husband. Woo, woo, Kochi, I love you.
That's legit.
Yeah, it's legit. You know, 30 years husband and the guy I was going to marry. And my grandmother said, the Lord didn't show me the other guy. And I know she was a praying mother. The Lord showed me Coach. which his name is Victor, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, his name is Victor.
Wow.
Yeah, the Lord showed me Victor. And it was a struggle within me because I had this picture of a perfect husband that I wanted in my mind. But as young people, even though I had that picture, I took time to pray. I wasn't a born again, okay? So don't spiritualize it. I go to my Baptist church, like my people say in Nigeria, Baptist. I go to my Baptist church and I was okay with my classes that I do. Not that Baptists are not good Christians. Yes, they are. But I go to my church, I'm not spiritual, I don't speak in tongues, I don't do all of that. But I prayed. I prayed. And the way I received, I want to share it with the young ones that are deciding to get married. What happened was the guy that I desperately wanted to marry abandoned me. And that was my inclination, or that was my guide to tell me that God wanted me to go to the way of my parents. The guy that I was bent over heels for. Okay, somebody told us something. We'll read it. I believe that the guy that I was head over heels for just disappeared from my life. So even though we're saying honoring your father and your mother, if your parents are godly people, and you know if your parents are godly, you know if they are not. I mean, I don't know how much I could pretend for my children, but they know my weaknesses a lot more than anybody else. And they know my strength. So even though your parents, you're trying to honor your parents and they're giving you counsel, I would encourage the millennials to obey the counsel of their parents while they are praying and while they're improving their relationship with God Almighty. Because it's only God that is going to live with you in your home when it talks about marriage. Am I right or am I wrong? Correct me, Millennium.
It comes down to you, your spouse, and God.
That's it. That's it. Let's read what this man. Oh, stop. I believe the Lord will guide parents on how to express it to their children. My question is, how do you show honoring your parents as adults with literal examples? Oh, I love the guy who wrote this question. Oh, and he said finances. Whoa! So I'm gonna get money. Honoring, naming your children, staying at your house. Okay, back to you. How do you show honoring?
Oh, and they said, how do you make these decisions while keeping your spouse in mind? These are my little questions.
Keep going.
Yeah. So when it comes to honoring, okay, here's the truth. When I leave my mom and dad, I've cleaved to my my wife.
Oh, please.
There's some more things I would do right now, but this is
this is live.
Okay. I've left my mom. We can't edit it. I've left my mom and dad, and I've cleaved to my my wife. So now it is us first. It is we first. It is me first. So if my mom is telling me to do something, my dad's telling me to do something, and my wife and I, even if my wife is in disagreement, we are in disagreement. Now, of course, if I do believe my mom is saying something that we should probably do, I can talk to my wife. But if we're not in agreement, I should not go and just take my mom's answer and still by force accept it anyway, because a house divided cannot stand. Exactly. So if I make a decision, if we're not in agreement, even if the decision leads to more money, a bigger house, anything, if we're not in agreement, then whatever decision that I've made without agreeing with my wife first is not a good decision. Not a good decision.
Okay, but let me explain this question better.
Okay.
How do you honor your parents with your finances and giving your children name?
Mhm.
And I know where that question is coming from. So
Okay, well,
you know, because let me give you a background story of something. When we were having children, parents gave us names. That is a Nigerian culture. I don't know about every other African culture, but that is a Nigerian culture that you don't have to take it. The millennials are different. You are very rebellious. You are very resentful. You are very disobedient as a culture.
Where is this coming from?
Wait. No, I'm not going to give names if the parents don't want names, on a serious note. But this generation is known for being rebellious, being resentful, and being disobedient. That's the way we look at this generation. It doesn't mean that's the way you guys are, because you guys are smart, you guys are knowledgeable, you guys have good education, you guys have good career, you made good choices, better than us in a lot of things. So I give that respect. But in an African culture, parents give names. Let's talk about that. Parents give names, but in my own opinion, you don't have to take that name. Because as Christians, your name, the name of your child should be inspired to you by the Holy Spirit. I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong. The name of your children should be inspired inside you by the Holy Spirit. So what I think you guys should do, this millennial guys, is if I say I want your child name to be Caleb, I give you a name Caleb, okay? Just add that Caleb for the sake of Caleb. Is whatever you put on the birth certificate, that is going to be your child's name. But in honoring your parents, so your parents don't feel disrespected, because some parents will be offended if you don't add that name. They will, seriously. I know it's African culture, you can cry. Yeah, you can cry for us. That's okay.
I'm coming from a culture. I'm coming from, because he's American. You know, I mean, he's Nigerian, but
he's American raised. Yeah.
But I'm
a Christian. Okay, you are.
But culturally speaking, yes, my culture is Christ. But culturally speaking, I understand the whole I don't think it's odd if your parents give your children names, because okay, that's your grandchild, it's a whole family thing. I understand that culture, but they shouldn't be expecting that it's the first thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because okay, look, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, it's my husband and it's our
son, our girl,
yes,
our triplets, our twins.
Wait.
But it's our child. So yes, this is your grandchild. You are biologically linked, all that stuff. This is my parents give my children names. Cool, that's fine. But I don't know. I mean, first of all, it's culturally based. But okay, if your parents say, "Oh, I want to give your children names," okay, give us names. If we add it to I have 7 middle names. I think 6. No, I have 6 middle names. No one calls me by that. But hey, they want to feel involved. They want to feel like, okay, this is our child. Oh, we'll carry the child. Or look at the child. Oh, this is my child. I give her this name. I give her that name. I call her this. They want to feel attached to the child. Now it's different if they're oh, Awoyele, or I'm one of Ogun something.
That connotes an idol.
Yeah, something. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, something that's not Christ-like.
Okay,
that's different because you are Christian. You will not have your child attached to any God apart from the Almighty.
Amen.
That is the difference.
Come on.
What's your stance? His stance is my stance.
Yeah. Off the record.
As in my stance is his stance. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, because Mommy said you can just add the name, but it's not going to be on the birth certificate. As long as the name, if it means something good and if it's something that, you know, is if it's good, you know. I mean, you don't have to put it on the birth certificate. You can just say it at the naming ceremony if you have one of those, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should always come down to the husband and wife. It's kind of like when John the Baptist was
being
being named.
Yes.
Even the family was around, and they were like, "No," because the mom wanted to call the son John, because that's what like Mommy said, inspired by the Holy Spirit, inspired by the Lord. They wanted to call the baby John. The family was like, "Nah, ain't nobody called John in your family, man. We're not gonna have that in this hood." You know, something like that's the ESV, JKG version. So, but then when but that's what the husband and wife agreed on, and the husband's name, I mean, the son's name was John. So it really comes down to the husband and wife, what they would like. But you can still respect the parents by adding it.
As a married couple, we're a married couple.
It's really,
the family. I mean, your family, your first family now is your husband and yourself and whatever children you have. But you shouldn't forget that at the end of the day, you still have your parents, your extended family, your extra family. You still have them, and because they are your parents, to a certain degree, even in marriage, you still need to respect them. And I believe, if anything, now that you are married and all that stuff, it puts you in a better position to talk to them. Like, okay, if you guys disagree on something, have a conversation. Oh, mom and dad, let's clear the air. I think that's the Christ-like thing to do, first of all, if anything. I know that when we're younger, it's like, you want to talk to them? Nope, they're not listening.
Come on, get them again.
It's like, but mom, I want to.
Don't talk back. Who does that? Parents.
What are you talking about?
We can't edit it. Mommy and daddies are going to watch all of this.
It's the truth. If you don't see it in movies, I mean, if you see it in movies, it's real.
Okay, and that's true. When you were younger, we didn't listen much because we know you don't know much. But now that you're a little bit grown, we give you more audience than when you were younger. But in terms of names, if your parents want to give names and the name resonates with your spirit, you can take it and you can put it on the birth certificate. And I've seen situations where the name the dad was given was the name the father of the baby was actually given. And that shows that that is the name of that child. You know, even it was inspired. So in terms of names, that's okay. Now, how do you honor your parents by now that you're an adult, with your parents staying at your house? You know, like if I decide to move to Victor and Victoria's house now, not. But if I decide I'm not coming, I have my husband.
It's cool, man. It's cool.
And it's cold in Philadelphia. I mean, come on. So if I decide to move to their house, if they tell me no, does that mean they're dishonoring me?
No.
And I'll tell you my perspective when I'm done.
Not necessarily.
Thank you.
Depends on the reason, and yeah, it really depends on the reason.
Okay, but let's give a scenario of I have to stay in their house.
You have to.
I have to, maybe because of circumstances, or maybe God forbid situations. And usually people think it's the women that will say no, but I've been married enough to know that men can say no too.
Yes.
And they say no to the woman. You know what I mean? Because when I say, okay, Joseph, I'm going to come to your house and spend 6 weeks, and Joseph said, well, I'll discuss it with my wife. And Joseph comes back and say, well, at this time, mom, you know, because of, that's the wife speaking culturally. We believe that is the wife's voice that we are hearing. But having been married for years, it may not necessarily be the wife's voice. It may be Joseph's voice, but the wife buttressed it. So if you want to go to your children's home and they said they're not ready, then don't take it personal, praying mothers. It's not a big deal as long as you're not begging for food and you're not in a situation that you can take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because if a mother is in a situation or a father is in a situation that they can't take care of themselves, then it is wrong for the child to say no. And if the child says no, then you need to create an avenue to care for your parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least try.
That is the honoring part to me. If I can't move, God forbid, move my hand, move my leg, whatever, and I need my children to take care of me, one way or the other, may it never happen. Even if I cannot live in their house, I will pray that the Lord will bless them enough to get caregivers that will do it and not be far away from your parents. That is a way to honor your parents as well. Taking care of them with your money. What else? With your time. When I call, you pick up or you text back. That's honoring your parents.
Yeah, I think another easy word for honoring is respect.
Respect.
Yeah, just respect. Respect doesn't always mean obey, but respect just means respect.
I mean, we can scroll down because I think
Oh,
I don't know the minimum.
oh, I didn't know there are more questions. Oh, okay. Somebody was just, when should the transition from parents to friend happen? That's a good question. High school, college, marriage. Okay, go ahead. When should it happen? Because now you are our friends. You're not a child like a child anymore, even though you're still a child. But even my 19-year-old told me today, I'm not a 5-year-old anymore. You can't tell me where to sleep or something like that. So but he's still a baby, so you can live with that. When does transition happen?
Well, I think that your parents should always be your friend. I don't know if I'm talking too low, but I mean, okay, I think that your parents should always be your friend. Um, it's a weird dichotomy of like, okay, they are your parents and they're here to correct you when you're wrong, and just be there for you, provide. But a friend, in the sense of like, they're always an ear to talk to. And I don't think that should start when you're in high school, when you're more mature. Because I think that's one of the issues. With many children nowadays, they talk about their lives with people on the outside, who, like their mates, who will honestly usually steer them wrong. But in that like foundation of I can talk to my mom, I can talk to my dad, I can be open with them. If that has always been there, they won't feel the need to, oh, I have to talk to that person outside because I can't talk to my mom, I can talk to my dad. From high school, from middle school, from elementary, always be an ear to your children. So I think friend wise, that should always be there.
I think it's both. Both from as soon as the child can even reason. Yeah, both from the beginning. Sometimes you gotta take off the hat of a parent and put on the friend hat. Sometimes you gotta wear both. But I think it should not be later in life, high school, marriage. That's just too late. Because then it's like you want to be my friend now. It's like
you want me to talk to you now? We never had that foundation.
Yeah, parent talk is different from friend talk. So I think it should start from the beginning.
Okay. Let me tell you how I disagree a little bit. Because this is a live show, we have to disagree. I think the friendship in this context is maybe
decision. Like me making a decision without you telling me not to.
I think friendship in this context is buttressing your weaknesses or not being truthful with you in terms of correction. I think that is what we Africans say, we're not your friend, we're your parents. Because if you're doing something and as a parent we know is leading to destruction, That's how we Africans reason, and it may be different from the way you reason as this generation. But we're thinking if we're your friend in the context of friendship, then there is limit to how we can scold you. There is limit to how we can chastise you. There is limit to how we can discipline you. But if we're your parents, then we can scold, we can chastise, we can discipline. I think the way you guys are referring to friendship is give your children a listening ear. Yes. Your child should be confident enough to approach you for anything. They should.
Such as equals. The last thing, friendship such as equals.
Such as equals. Okay.
Well, can we ever be equal?
We can respect each other, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can say equal. I don't know. But I just
yeah, I think
it's both. I think it's both. I think it's both. Like, put on the chastising hat when you have to.
Okay.
And then but everything should be done in love. Many parents do not chastise or anything in love, so it just that just messes everything up.
Because I feel like when they say, "Oh, I'm not your friend," it's like I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be brutal with you.
Yeah, that's what they mean.
According to how I feel.
Without love.
Like, yeah, it's like, okay, so if I feel angry about what you have done, or as maybe a friend be like, "Oh, that wasn't cool. You shouldn't have done that." As a parent, I can be like, what's wrong with you? You shouldn't have.
That's what we mean.
Let's meet in the middle. Christ-like, communicate with your children. Let everything be done in love. So even if you're not thinking, I'm a friend to my child, I'm a friend to my child. If you just have your parent hat on and you do everything in love, whether you know it or not, you've been a friend to your child.
Okay, maybe that is understandable, that still do what God expects you to do. Because I want to refer to Eli in the Bible. Eli was a good example of somebody that didn't raise good children. Isaac and Abraham were an example of good children, good child. Yeah. Because even to the point of sacrifice, I don't think anybody can take your generation and say, let's go to the bush, have an axe, have a cutlass.
Nope.
And you follow. I don't think that will work. But Eli is an example of somebody that left the children to do whatever they like. So I think that is what is in the mind. And as a parent, I can tell you, that is what is in the mind of a parent, that if I don't stop this child in this trap, he or she is going to destroy herself or themselves. So I think that is what we refer to about not being your friends. We're not going to condone you and say, you can move. We're not going to condone you and say we respect how you feel, even though you feel bad as a child or as a daughter or as a son, even though maybe you're feeling bad right now, but that doesn't supersede the fact that we want to correct you to not keep going in the tracks you're going. So that is what we mean by we're not your friend, we're your parents. And when you're grown and you are matured and you are in the age of good reasoning, then we can be your friend. I think that is what that statement, we Africans, and I can say I'm a Nigerian, that's what we mean by we're not your friend, we're your parents, and we will control the way you behave to a certain extent in the way of the Lord or in the right way. One thing I want to say about that is when your parents tell you to do something, always remember, it doesn't matter how smart you are. There is one thing your parents have that you don't have, and that is experience. I was discussing with a guy this morning, and I said, if God does not value the experience of your parents to help raise you, God has the power to drop people from heaven. And you won't have to go through a mother or a father. He can just say, this week, we're creating 500 human beings. And we're dropping 50 in Australia, 30 in Nigeria, 15 in America, and nobody has to be pregnant.
No labor.
No labor pain, see?
Mm.
But because God knew that the experience of your parents is going to help shaping your future, that is why God made you pass through somebody to come to this earth. So honoring them, even based on their experience, is very crucial. You know your mother has been married, right? For a long time with your dad. So if she tells you something about marriage, it may not be exactly what you will go through, but it will help to guide your mind. Not the negative things, because our experience is different from your experience. But it would at least help you to guide your mind in whatever you're doing. Oh, Lord. I'll let you answer that.
How do you address putting your parents in a nursing home? Take it.
First of all, never. That's my own personal sense. My parents would never be in a nursing home. I'm sorry. That's like, I can't. I just, no.
What's your reason? You can't just give an African answer.
It's
An African
that's how I
answer.
feel.
Never.
It's like, no.
My parents will never be in a nursing home.
No. Wait. Mommy, do you want to be in a nursing home?
No.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, but let me come in.
Okay.
Because as much as I'm a mother, I work in the medical field and I'm understanding. And that is why I said earlier that parents should pray a lot for their children more than they pray for themselves. And I'm a living witness. My children can bear, if they can't trust me on anything, my children, which I hope not, those of you watching, my children, if they can't trust me on anything, at least one thing I know they can trust me on is taking time to pray for them. I do that all my life so far, and I will continually do that. But on this question, it is not a mother's desire or a father's desire to go to a nursing home. But if your children cannot afford taking care of you, and what do?
Okay, I'm talking about my own personal life, right? My parents will go to Nigeria. They're confident enough. Like I would never pray that my parents just because anything can happen, right? But God forbid that maybe they get ill, they can't take care of themselves, and truly, and the Lord sees my heart. I will greatly desire that we are able to provide for them, that they don't have to be what?
You have to give an answer.
I'm giving an answer.
No, you have to give an answer that works for everyone. Like you're saying, you're making it personal. Mine.
No.
Yeah, she's talking about her parents. Go ahead.
Yeah, but now, if people are watching and saying, okay,
are you gonna kiss each other?
Not yet. I'd say, okay, but no, if you have to give an answer that's because right now you're saying you're gonna strongly work towards, strongly pray towards it.
No, not strongly. See, you don't. Because it wasn't strongly work towards, strongly pray towards it.
And truly, Nigeria, some of these nursing homes are better than Nigeria. You talking about?
No. First of all, I'm saying that they have their retirement, as it were, is in they already have their own plans. Okay, and it's that weird. Okay, my parents. Okay, for example, the way my parents are, the way his parents are, the way you are, is not the way some other people. For example, there's some aunties in church whose parents, grandmoms, are from Nigeria, from the village, Nigeria, and that one's that confusing generation of okay, your parents literally depend on you because they don't have a job, they can't speak the language, they can't do this, they can't do that. That one is okay, there's that one there. My parents are the other ones where it's like you,
they're
educated, they have a job, they have plans, they have their retirement, they have this, they have a plan for their lives and how they want it to go. So when it comes to my parents, being a nursing home, I don't really think about that because my parents have themselves sorted out. Like, oh, my parents need
What
to
about
come.
those who aren't necessary?
Yeah, I'm coming.
Oh, okay. We don't have much time.
No. We can always extend it. It's live. It's
You
live.
can extend it. Yeah, you're right.
But like when it comes to like, okay, so there's some people who don't have that situation. Personally, for me, it's like, okay, I don't desire that for my parents. Some people, if you don't mind that, and first of all, talk to your parents about it if you're able to communicate with them, because sometimes that might be an issue that you're not able to communicate with them. But if your parents, if they're okay with it, first of all, examine like there's a benefit to them, one, being at home with you. But there's also benefit to them being with people like them. So I would personally say, like examine, because not all nursing homes are created equal. There are some that are like hospitals, and there's some that are like, I'm like, wow, you're living life, okay? But like examine the communities. See, like, okay, talk to your parents. Is this an option we want to explore? Is this something that we want to do? If that is your situation, that is not my situation, and I don't desire it to be my situation. But only because of it's not my situation because of who my parents are, how they are, how you like just that generation. Like
Our generation is different. Yeah.
But if that is your situation, examine it. Try and create the best atmosphere for them, but don't ignore their feelings because it's like, okay, what if they don't want to be in the nursing home? What are you gonna do then? Like you're thinking, okay, I just put them in a nursing home, they'll take care of them, blah blah. They don't want it.
Yeah.
Meet your parents halfway, talk to them, like, okay, how about like we try and get a caregiver or something like that. If you just don't want them in your house, you need to pray about that. Unless you and your spouse are in disagreement.
You have nailed it. I think in a situation where a child can afford it, a child, you as child, in this context, can afford to hire a caregiver to come to your home to take care of your parents. If ever, God forbid, it won't happen. We're praying it will never. But if you can afford it, then don't put them there. But in an American culture, because there are Americans on the line, in an American culture, that nursing home is not a bad thing. I'm going to speak from a medical little knowledge I have. Even though you're putting your parents in a nursing home, don't abandon them in a nursing home. That is dishonoring your parents. If you put them in a nursing home and you can only visit them Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, they don't come. But they come Thanksgiving and they bring this Boston market chicken for that poor woman or poor man, and that's it. No, that is dishonoring them. If you cannot afford to keep them in your house because you cannot pay caregiver, I understand. You can put them in a home that they can adapt to, but at least make it even 2 weekends in a month or 1 weekend in a month. Go spend time with them. Don't let them feel abandoned. Don't let them feel neglected. I think that is where that question is coming from. Don't just leave them to be there and say, well, I'm here with my wife and we have to live our lives. They've done their time, they're gone. Remember, what you sow is what you reap. If you dishonor your parents based on the fact that maybe your wife or your husband or your friends are teaching you something negative, you will have children. You will, whether you like it or not. Even if you decide not to marry so you don't have children, somebody will get pregnant. Because God has to give you back what you have sown. So, and that is the honest truth. In order for you not to reap evil, then don't sow evil into the life of your parents. Honor your parents, respect them, understand where they're coming from. Know that I don't think anybody can love Joseph, Benjo. Let's exclude Kayo in this statement now. Never. You will always be there. But apart from marital love, I don't think an external person can love this guy. as the spirit. I don't think an external person can love this young woman as your mom and your dad, apart from marital love. Okay? Don't get me wrong. I don't think one auntie from somewhere, I don't think one auntie from somewhere, because you don't have witches and wizards as parents. You have godly children, godly women and men, pastors, men of God, people that fear the Lord. You know, so there is no auntie in church or uncle at work that will have your best interest at heart than your mom and your dad. And that is why I brought this program. Honor them, not because they feel, not because they deserve to be honored in all situations. Sometimes we blow it as parents. Sometimes we mess up. Sometimes we misjive. Sometimes we miscalculate. But we are human. But don't take our honor away from us because of our mistakes and our shortcomings. Give us our honor, respect us, call us. My children do, thank you. But call us when we need, read your parents' feelings. Sometimes if you're very sensitive, sometimes you call your parents and you can tell if there's a situation. Learn to read millennials. Learn to read your parents' feelings. Learn to understand. And I keep saying millennials because most of the questions or the comment that I got after I sent the flyer out was from the parents of close to my age that gave birth to your age. And that is because a lot of parents are struggling with their children. I got calls from England, a boy telling the mother, I will never forgive you because you didn't let me do this job or this school. We're going to that. That's my last one.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't let me study this particular course in school. I studied what you want to study. And the boy has vowed not to forgive the parents.
How do you deal with unforgiveness or resent with your parents due to your history?
What does that mean?
Due to your history.
Due to your history.
Can you explain?
Like due to your history that you've had with them, like your history of maybe just clashes.
How do you?
We don't understand that question, sir. Can you make it clear to us?
Maybe based on your history, based on the history you have with the
parents.
parents.
Based on the situation with them or something. Okay. Okay, now answer. How do you?
I'm thinking that maybe a parent is unforgiving towards, let's say her parents are unforgiving towards me based on something that happened in the past. Well, as much as I can, I'm going to live peaceably with them. If they are, unforgiving, and I've done my necessary apology or shown my love, and they still are in the unforgiveness, just leave them and pray for them. Hopefully they'll get over it. Hopefully they'll forgive me. But I'm not going to have a headache over it. I mean, if I've done my apologies, I've done the right thing, they still want to hold a grudge.
What if it's you that you're not forgiving your parents?
That's right. My simple answer is, there's an understanding of like maybe your parents have hurt you a lot, and it's like greatly a lot. I don't have anything else better to say than pray. Talk to God about it. Like, okay, you have this burden, you can't forgive them, and you know, or you should know, that you should forgive them. That you should let go of this as a Christian. And you're not able to, that's something you should pray about. That's something you should go to God about and just bear it all in front of him, that I can't seem to forgive him. That's an issue with you. It's not an issue with your parents. Yes, your parents are the ones who probably brought this thorn about, but if you're not able to let go, that's an issue with you, and you need to pray about it. Now, it doesn't help if they just continue just egging you on and just getting you irritated. That does not help. But I think communication with the Lord is key.
Okay. Last week, well, actually this week, Wednesday, we dealt about forgiving my parents because I had to forgive my parents. Yeah, go watch that video on praying mothers. I had to forgive my parents because I was a child out of wedlock. My parents had me when they were 18 years old, and to me, I felt a little bit abandoned. But I want to say the right thing is forgive, because that forgiveness is the key to your breakthrough. If you don't forgive your parents, you can never honor your parents. Take it from a victim. You can never honor your parents if you have unforgiveness in your heart towards your parents. And I think that is one of the problems we're having, because we hurt you, because we did something you don't like. Children of these days, or even us, my generation, we're holding on to that pain. And if we hold on to that pain, we can never let go, and you can never love your parents. You can never honor your parents if you have unforgiveness in your heart towards them. So now we have a question, but I want you to answer that question about what if your parents say you should be a doctor, and knowing is, I don't know whether your parents said that, I'm just asking. Knowing inside you, you want to be an engineer. How do you deal with it?
Okay, so let's just take my life as an example.
Oh, okay.
I went to school, and exercise physiology was my initial major. But after one semester, I switched to theater arts. That's right, acting. Yes.
And you are right now, too.
Right. Right now, my wife and I have a production company, production establishment, photography, videography, commercial production. But in college, it was difficult because I felt like I should be in the media field, and I actually prayed. I was convicted, convinced, everything, you know. And my parents were not the same. They weren't in line with that, with my decision. So it was a really tough place for me, because I felt like God was telling me this. My parents that God has given me are telling me this. So of course it was a battle for maybe like 7 years, maybe 6 years. 6 years, and led me to a place of prayer and just a lot of communication with them. I didn't do so well with the communication. Disobedience at times, yes. My mom wanted me to be wanted me to be a lawyer.
Guessing.
Yeah, all those. Wicked, you know. My mom wanted me to be a lawyer. I just did not have the heart for that. Didn't have the passion at all. And so that was tough, you know. That was tough. It's kind of like when I'm all alone now. Just like back in those days, I was all alone, you know, struggling in theater arts. But so sometimes the parents, they may know what's good for you, but not what's best for you. And now God knows what's best. And sometimes if the parents don't know what's best, it can really be tough. And it's not everything that the parents say that is correct when it comes to career choice, life choice. Really, it's not. And there's a miscommunication in the area. Prayer, communication. Communication this way and communication this way. That's like the number. That's the only thing that helped us. Because yes, I'd be praying to the Lord, I wouldn't be talking to them, or I'd be talking to them, I wouldn't be praying to the Lord. And it was just a bunch of contention. And yeah, until I actually, you know what? They want me to be a lawyer. They want me to do something that quote unquote makes money. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just obey. Right? The Bible says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." So I just tried to obey. I went to the law classes, LSAT, you know, all that stuff. Didn't work, right? Didn't work. Went to school for a master's in a certain international business. Didn't work, right? And but I tried. So now there's no guilt in my heart where I didn't obey. I didn't try to obey, and you know I live with that for the rest of my life. No, I did try. So now that I live with my wife and I am doing theater arts, media productions, my heart is clean. And those trying years, they have just made me a better person and helped me develop as a man. You know, so I will say, man, when it comes to the whole career thing, please, parents, all parents listening to me, listen. Money is not everything. Okay? The Bible says, "Money answereth all things." Yes, things is the key word. We are not things. Jesus answers all life.
Amen.
So whenever we're trying to decide a career, it should be God first, not money first. We shouldn't look at the top paying, you know, hot selling job market and be like, oh yeah, you should study this because the money you would make is this amount. Money does not necessarily help. Okay, many people have money and their marriages suck. Many people have money, and they chase the money, they lose their children. You know.
Okay.
So, but yeah, long story short, you have to communicate with the Lord and communicate with your parents.
I'm actually with you on that in terms of career. I'm with you. I encourage my children to do whatever they feel they want to do. First, that is what they want to do. If it doesn't work out, they can't blame me. If they end up not making money, that is their life. There is so much a mother or a father can do. But don't force them to do what you want them to do. Guide them, give them reasons why you think one is better, but let the Lord lead. Let the Lord lead you as a mother, as a father, and let the Lord lead the children as well. I think the basic way of honoring your parents, in my opinion, is for you to know the Lord. Once, as somebody's child, you know the Lord. We had a sound here.
Yes, the water fountain.
It's the water fountain. Sorry. Once, as a child, you know the Lord, honoring your parents will be very easy. But we have a question here. It says, when does the parent become the third party in the life of their married children?
It begins in courtship.
No, that is not what that question means.
No. The parent becomes a third party.
What does that mean? Like another?
That is an African communication. Let me tell you what that question means.
Like another person in the marriage.
Yes.
Okay.
I see. Okay. She understands Nigerian communication.
No, kind of like.
When does the parent become the third party in the life of their married children?
I know what you mean. You are answering it as an American. They are always a third party. Yes, they are. No, but in the context of this question, kind of like a thorn in the flesh.
Yeah. Like we can't make a decision. Like, oh, what are you guys doing? Like, just like always in your business. If you're about to make a decision, you feel like they will be insulted if you didn't consult them. Yes. It's like they're in your life. We are married to you as well.
As in, when do they become a part of us, or when do they become a third party?
No. Let me explain it in an African term. What I think that question means is that when does your parents become a problem to your marriage? If I'm wrong, ma'am, please rephrase it. When they become a third, the third party means you as a mother, you have always been a third party.
Okay.
You as a mother, and I'm a third party to their marriage, but I am not an undesired third party to their marriage. Are you getting me? My being third party to my children's marriage is not to control or to boss or to direct their own. I am here as a support. I'm here as somebody, if you need help, if you have triplets and you need me, twins and you need me, they're giving me bad looks, I'll be there, but it doesn't change my prayer point. So, so as a third party in this context, I mean, I think she means when do you become a problem? And I can answer that because I'm a mother and I have married children. You become a problem when your children cannot be individuals, even though they're married. When your son is still, well, my son will always be my baby because he's my son. Moderator, you are right. Thank you. My son will always be my baby because I gave birth to him. But I'm not going to call them and say, what did Victoria cook today? Did she give you, our own culture? Did she do this? Did she do that in your life? I don't expect Kayo's mom to call and ask, why is your husband wearing white? Why didn't you tell him to wear purple? Why didn't why did you cook eba no? When a mother begins to micromanage their children's home, that is when they become a third party. As a praying mother, you don't have a business micromanaging. We had a program. I will encourage you all download Praying Mothers app. You will watch all our past video. We have almost 30 something videos done already. I believe as a mother, when you raise good children, and please don't text me because somebody texted me after I said that statement one time that how do you raise good children? Do you think not every mother is trying? I don't know what every mother is doing, but I know what I did. After you raise good children in the way of the Lord, only God can help, first of all. You can do everything and the child still wants to be bad. Then you are free in within yourself that you have tried. But when you don't do your job as a mother or as a father, and that child picks the wrong spouse, then you just give yourself another prayer point that is not necessary. So while your children are growing up, do your best. Teach them. Share your life experiences. Share your pain. Share your gains. My children knows that I started in this country as a maid. When I first came to this country, I was doing a living maid. I go Sunday night, I come Friday night. They know that that was a struggle for my life that I went through. So as a mother, when you raise them to understand that life has time zones, and that time was a time zone of struggling and suffering, just to make sure they have lives. When they're gonna pick wives or when they're gonna pick husband, they will pick the right one. God is not unfaithful. God cannot make me raise you as a good boy, a child loving, a God loving child, and make you pick a Jezebel. No, because I didn't raise you to be attracted to a Jezebel. So as mothers, let us do a good job so that when we are part of our children's life, we are not third party. And after they're married, leave them alone. Even if they don't move to Philadelphia, if they live in Cyprus, they won't see me in their house. If they invite me to come, I will gladly come, or I can turn their offer down. It's my choice. Yeah, I have my life, my husband, everything God has given me. So don't force yourself on your children. I think that is the question. And don't make your children, don't make your son, especially mothers of boys. were the most difficult ones. Don't turn your son to a robot. Let him make decisions. Let him make mistakes. Because we learn from our mistakes. So why can't they learn from their mistakes? My prayer is that they don't make mistakes that are grievous or that can terminate their life. But if all they lose is money, it's okay, they'll be all right. That's the way I look at it. I may be wrong for that question, but that's the way. Allow your parents to be individual. Your children to be individual. Allow them to enjoy their marriage. Don't see every negative thing your daughter-in-law is doing because your daughter will do worse. I mean, I have a daughter and you can believe it. If I was that girl's mother-in-law and I was not a believer, I'll conquer on her head sometimes. Because sometimes you say something and she just rolls and rolls and rolls and rolls. So if that was my son's wife and she rolls, then is she a bad child? No. She's just been a child. And I think if your daughter-in-law relates with you one way or the other, it's probably because she loves you. Because if she doesn't love you, she doesn't want anything to do with you. You're coming from breakfast. I believe you went with your mother-in-law and your father-in-law. See, that is what in-laws do. Okay, we're rounding up. I think I have one question. One question. I put S behind one. Sorry, forgive me. I think Ms. Kayo has already answered my last question. So give your advice to the young and the restless.
Ladies first.
Okay.
See them, they're newly married, so they're still shocking each other. The butterflies are still jumping in their bellies. Right?
In 10 more years, it will be the same thing.
Amen. But in 30 years, those butterflies,
Are still alive. They're
in 30 years, those butterflies, they will still be jumping, but their speed is
faster.
It's faster. You're right. Go ahead.
Okay. For the young and sometimes restless, I would say. Oh, sorry. I totally. Understand your parents. I think one of the things that like leads to trouble is that at times we don't see where they're coming from. Maybe they make a statement and to us we're just hearing you're yelling at me, you're loud and all this stuff, and that's what we feed off of. We feed off of the emotion. But it's like, okay, you calm yourself. Okay, if your parents aren't calm, you calm yourself. And just listen. Okay, my parents aren't happy with the way I communicate with them. Or maybe they're not happy with my grades, they're not happy with this. Understand it and try your best. Communicate with them. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. This is, of course, if you're not married, because if you are married, then everything relates back to how you and your husband, how you and your wife will handle the situation. But outside of marriage, as in single, just understand your parents, communicate with them, and try to lead them, especially if you disagree. If you disagree in the Lord, try to lead them to the path of light, as in the path of the Lord. If they want you to do this, you don't agree with it, don't just ignore it and be like, oh, okay, well, whatever, I'm not doing it, it's not Christ-like, that's it. No, talk to them about it. Like, okay, well, I understand where you're coming from, and I see the positives of what you're saying, but truly, Mom, in Christ, as a Christian, this and this, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. Communicate with them. Just that openness, and don't communicate with them out of spite. Don't belittle them. Everything, parents talking to child talking to parent, do it in love. Do it in love.
Tough love or real love?
I think love shouldn't be defined by tough, or it should be real and authentic. It should be Christ-like. And yes, there are times that love is chastising, but it is done in love. It's not done because sometimes we just, oh yeah, okay. I think one of the things is like, okay, your parents are talking to you and they care for you and they want what's good for you. I mean, their mind is what's best for you. But it's like, okay, I don't feel like you're talking to me in love. If you are talking to someone and you have negative emotions, if you are angry and it's like you're negative, you're irritated, you're this, you're that, it's not love. That's you. If you don't like it, you don't like it, that's you. If you're talking to them like, look, I am your parent and I will talk to you truly and honestly, but you do it in love and affection. Like, look, just show them the lay of the land. That this is not wise. What you're doing isn't wise. And sometimes talking like that might be exhausting. It's like, okay, I'm just talking, I'm talking, I'm talking. No, do this. That's all. No, take time. Children, take time to talk to your parents. Don't get exasperated because they're exasperated. And same thing for the parents. Take time to talk to your children. One thing I understand is that parents, they're so busy working and trying to provide many things that the children don't even know that they need. That just that idea of spending time with their children is like, I don't have time. But make time. The reason why you're doing all this wahala is because of the child. So let the child know what you're doing for them. Talk to them, like share your day with them. Share, and the child should do vice versa. If you open the door, they're going to come in. For you and from the parent to the child, from the child to the parent, open the door. Just have that communication.
I think what would help when it comes to talking in love is if always keeping in mind parents and children. Parents and children. The goal when talking is not to win the argument, but win the person. So it's a different way. If you're trying to win the argument, you just make your point. Case closed. But if you're trying to win the person, you make your point, but you want them to come and join you and agree with you as well. So whenever there's talking, always trying to focus on winning the person, not the argument. And I will say this is a tough thing that Jesus said. That he was talking to a group of people once, and his mother, his biological mother, and his brothers came and they wanted to talk to him. Tell him to come out. And Jesus responded and said, "Who's my mother? Who's my brother? Who's my sister?" And he said, "My mother, my brother, my sister are the people who hear the word of the Lord and do it." So this is a reminder to parents to be in the seat of mother or father in a child's life. The key thing is knowing the word of God and actually living it out. And the best way to raise a child in a godly way is living by example. This is why many ministers' children are wayward, because on the altar or at church, they'll be hallelujah-ing and praising the Lord, but the child knows that at home, the same speaking in tongues, laka maka maka, is what they use to like call the child an idiot or a fool at home. So that child now has a different perception of Christianity and probably will rebel. So the best way is to always try to win the child, win the parent, not the argument, and always live by example. And if it's tough, then just ask the Lord for help.
That was good. That was good. At least I can agree with you. Win the person, not the argument. At least I can say that this has been a very good program. I'm trying to read the question. These couples are good example of a godlike character. That is why they're on the show, on this platform. Levi, no.
Who? This is mine.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
see, we can't edit this. But that's okay. I really want them to do all that because it shows marriage is good for people that are still single. Marriage is good. Just stop it. Marriage is good and they're enjoying their marriage. But the point is honoring your father and your mother or your parents, even your spiritual parents. We didn't talk about that. Your pastor. Some people go to church under a pastor, but they don't honor that pastor. If you're one of them, stop going to that church. If you cannot honor your pastor or respect your pastor, then find another church. Come join my church. You love my pastor. But, honor your pastor. Honor your spiritual parents. God has placed people over your life for a reason. There is no person that is an island. Nobody. It doesn't. I was discussing with a lady today, a young lady that calls me for counsel, and she's like, I don't want to get married because I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to be controlled by anybody. I don't want nobody telling me what to do. I don't want nobody judging me. I don't want. And one time she had called me. I'm digressing. When I did a topic about sex toys. Yeah, I did. Go watch it. I did a topic about sex toys and why do people use sex toys and what is the implication spiritually about sex toys. And I remember this lady had asked me a question about that. And then today I just told the lady, you don't want somebody to control you, but you want a vibrator to control you. So, it's getting your priorities out of order. Your parents are to be honored in the Lord. Don't look at their faults. Don't look at their mistakes. They are not perfect. And you're never going to be perfect when you start having children either. So the day you become a perfect parent, then you are not a parent. So respect them, honor them, give them time when they need time. Don't take time from your wife and give it to your parents. That's not what we are talking about. Or don't take time from your husband's time and give to your parents. But both of you agree on when you want to talk to us. Both of you agree on when you want to communicate with us. And another thing, the way you honor your parents as young married couples, this is for you. Don't report your spouse to us. Don't. The reason is when the argument is over between both of you, it's still in our own hearts. Because we're not your wife and we're not your husband. You don't apologize to us by kissing us, hugging us, whatever. But you can do that to your wife. And God has placed it in such a way that your wife will forget anyway. Come and ask me. When I just got married, I would say, Coach did this. Coach did that. Eventually, I ran out of space of recording wrongs because the Bible says love does not keep record of wrongs. So eventually, I learned my lesson. 30 years into the marriage, I don't even remember what he's doing. Good or bad, I don't even have time to remember. We're busy doing things for the Lord. So the point is, honor your parents according to the will of the Lord. Take care of your parents. If God blesses you, you can afford to buy a house for your parents. You can afford to buy a car for your parents. You can afford to do this. You can afford to do that. Do it. Because parents do pay a lot of prices over their children. And since you guys are in the plan of becoming parents, you will see how sacrificial it is to be a mother or a father. And I pray for all the millennials, all my children, my sisters, my brothers, and everybody, that our children will honor us in every way. And that they too, they will reap whatever they have sown into our lives. This is Praying Mothers saying thank you to Brother Joseph and Sister Kyle GBENJO. We really love you. Your marriage, your wedding is going to be 1 year when?
June 24th.
So next month, they're going to be 1 year in this.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. In this beautiful wedlock. See how beautiful they're looking. They're enjoying marriage. I pray for all the mothers that your children will find the right one and your ladies will find the right husband. When your children are connected with the right couple, makes life easy and glorifies God. I guess that's the major thing. We have an app. If you have not received a link to download our app, please download it. Millennials, please download our app. Don't say, what are they talking about? Download it for the days that we're going to be hosting young people like you. At least you can join us those days. On behalf of the Lord God Almighty that has called this ministry, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. I love you and God bless you. Shalom. Any word? Tell them you love them. Not like that. Not like Joe. Just tell them we love you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in.
Oh, see?
Thank you.
They said thank you. Thank you, everybody. We love you. Bye-bye.